When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Recycle. Ron, what is your advice to maybe a small security company as they just opened shop and they're going to 2023 and going, okay, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to get some business? What's your advice to them?
Well, right in back of you, see, Ledlow's done a good job, because if you're listening and watching the podcast, what you have on that wall there are essentially sectors within a market sector. So I'm not trying to be glib though, Mark, but it's like you got to pin it down. If you own a business as a risk consultant, if you own a business that does security guards, if you run a business that is a system integrator, these are all different approaches in today's market, right? So, but again, it goes back to what we said at the beginning. You need to know what the transactions of value are going on in your marketplace. So if I took a risk consultant and he says, what do I do for the future? I go, how well do you know your market? So if I take the persona you're targeting right now, who are you targeting? I'm targeting managers of security in the healthcare industry. Great. Now we've narrowed it down to there. What kind of transactions or value are going in that? How does that manager of security, how does he or she come up with a scorecard for evaluating vendors and taking a piece of their budget to put on that activity? How well do you know that process and that line of thinking before you can make judgment calls on the construction of your business? Does that make sense? So I call that the mind of the market. And you really need, there was a guy I was coaching who is starting up such a business. And he was trying to come up with a name for his business. And yet he doesn't have a persona yet or an understanding of the market sector he's going to live in. But he's doing branding already, thinking if I can launch an LLC and a brand, right? And by the way, fantastic guy. One of the best guys I know I'm not going to name the sector because it could pinpoint him, but a remarkable guy. But I urged him to really study his persona and how they make decisions regarding regarding vendors and their budget before he makes any decision. I call that mind of the market. And then I have a mind of the investor sequence that I do that says, what could disrupt what you do? Notice what when I threw you the thought experiment and said, what if we got rid of security? What would that look like? What if we got rid of taxis? What would that look like? What if we got rid of bookstores? So we ran that little experiment. Same thing here. What do you want to be? Just another risk consultant? Then how do I rank you as a vendor if everyone does what you do?
How do you stand out?
How do you stand out? Or is there a different way of approaching the market that no one's thought of before? True. Or few people thought of before. So I'd really get into it with that business owner. That's how I'd approach it, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. So I know everybody's trying to think, okay, if I want to make money this year, what's it going to look like? A lot of the notes. We don't have a crystal ball. We just got to go off of what we're hearing off of CNBC, which could be gloom and boom, or, it depends on what industry you're in. It's to either thrive or not even do too well. Every economy have their up and down. Every industry, it's right, and another industry may go down. It just depends on, like you said, Ron, what is your service product?
Yeah. So one of the questions of your prospect and clients is, you're sitting in a room and you're all trying to determine what to spend money on. What's taking the most priority right now? That would be a great question of your buyers. What's taking priority right now? Not just you, but the people around you. What is taking priority? Well, and don't let them get away with, well, we don't know yet. We're just doing layoffs. We're just cutting costs. No, somebody knows where this boat is going, and they're still investing in things that matter. What are they investing in?
Very true.
Right? I mean, if they're asking you to take 10% across the board, which is a strategy, we never got to that strategy. But if you're sitting in the executive team and the CEO owner goes, we all have to take a cut. All of us are, that is such a damn cheap way of, I mean, I'm sorry, all you CEOs who have that strategy, it's stupid, okay? It just is. Sorry. You don't just say 10% across the board. You don't. You have to look at your mission, vision, your customer. What legs are you going to stand on? Are you going to hope they take the right 10%? I mean, come on. Hope's not a strategy. You've heard that before. But you need to understand how they're going through that process and what they're continuing to invest in. And if they're not going to continue to invest in what you do for the next 6 months or a year, and you can't find yourself in a position to be the guy who helps them invest in you because they are investing in that, right? You don't want guy. Then a little secret, go find the customers who want what you need. Boom. The one you just talked to doesn't need you. And there's an old saying, in my consulting role, I've advised different parts of the organization, from finance officers to HR, to marketing, to sales, to, right? So, but when I'll never, I had a friend who started a sales business. He was going to teach people how to sell. And one of the best aphorisms he ever came up with, and it's a good lesson for life too, Mark, is yeses are good. No's are good, but maybes will kill you. And what he was trying to say to salespeople is, get to a no or a yes as quickly as possible. You don't want to stay in maiden land. And a lot of us are too scared. We're scared that, oh my God, if I pitch Mark Ledlow that, he should spend $20,000 with me to do a risk assessment. If I pitch it and ask him to make a decision, and I just want him to sit on it. It's okay to let him sit on it. Oh yeah, that's called maybe. Yeses are good. No's are good. Maybes will kill you, because the velocity of business will not stand by and let you stay in business if you have too many maybes.
Wow. That was a masterclass in Business 101.
Not really. Just shared learnings. I hope it's relevant to somebody in your audience. And Mark, I hope it actually improved your brand instead of diluted it.
I think our market share went by 10 times today. But you know what I'm really hearing from a lot of potential clients is, we're going over first quarter budgets right now. We don't even have a budget. It's first quarter. We're trying to figure out how much we have in the bank to spend for the rest of the year. We're like, okay, when will we have an answer? Let's reconvene in February. We'll have a better idea. We got to get our meetings done. And everybody's can't get out of jet and make it to the location in time for the meeting because everybody's shut down. So I guess we'll have to do Zoom after all. But it just seems like that you and
three levels of why. Always remember, you can ask a question and get an answer. Then you ask a question about that answer. And then you ask a question about that answer. So the reason you're doing that is the first answer isn't always directional. It isn't going to give you enough to make a business decision, Mark. So what you're trying to do in that case is, again, I'll go back to, they are spending money on something. What are they spending it on? And see if that aligns with anything you do that you could achieve value with them. Otherwise it's, Mark, can I follow up with you In 30 days, will you have more clarity in 30 days? Yes. But make sure you ask 3 levels of why of what they're investing in today, what's already in the budget, not to be cut, so that you can at least see if that you can help in those areas.
Great advice for those listening. Totally good advice. I know a lot of security companies, or not just security companies, but a lot of companies in all industries are going through this first quarter. Everybody's, trying to figure out what they're going to do for the rest of the year. Not just security, but
that's right.
Tech companies, Salesforce just laid off, Amazon just laid off. So everybody's going through the same stuff right now.
And again, if you're one of those layoffs, this isn't about your identity as a person. This is about a recalibration of what you do and care about and where it can be received in a valuable way, right? So take it as a gift that you've been given to recalibrate a place where you can see your personal value integrated into your professional value. Take that as an opportunity. It can be a blessing.
Reinvent yourself. I mean, how many people are sitting all for a year? All of them getting the loans, COVID stuff, unemployment. And many people changed careers, left their jobs, and started. I started 2 new businesses during the COVID-19. And I'm sure a lot of people did too. A lot of people got hurt too, as well. They weren't prepared.
Yeah.
So can you reinvent yourself?
Yeah. Again, but if you listen to this whole podcast, make sure if you are gainfully employed, you're doing the discipline of saving for your Rockefeller moment.
That is great advice. Especially from the agents that live paycheck to paycheck. I know there's a lot of people that got laid off in the Bay Area recently, and because of all the tech cuts and all that. One guy, he had a great job. I'm not going to say the client name or the agent's name. Had a great job for a year and a half, and he thought he had a full-time job. And then another company came in, built the project with a whole new team, and the team got removed. And that just happened in the executive protection industry, just how it goes. So when you're underbidded by a couple of dollars less, and new team comes in, the old one goes away. Typically, I think security contracts only last for a year, 2 years run. That's so typical life cycle from what I see.
Well, let's look at this. It doesn't mean we won't talk again or even do another podcast again, but let's make a promise to each other 5 years from now to see if my original question to you is, how do we get rid of security as we know it today? Let's see what that looks like in 5 years.
Wow, a different industry completely, I'm sure.
It already has changed in the 20 years I've known it. It's already changed, but with the technology coming down the pipe and, a very, very noted and respected former CSO told me a long time ago that you can't protect the company. You can do you have to take measures as if you can, but you're going to get hit. Mm-hmm. And so the real key is how you respond after that hit. Mm-hmm. And it really struck me. This is early on in my experience with the security industry. Here's a CSO, a innovative thinker, by the way, who says we can't protect the company. We really can't. That's fool's gold. So I was thinking of that now years later with the advent of some of these technologies coming in, and it really is. You mentioned Ontic. Well, let's use a different term. Ontic is a company that has developed a platform that's very specific right now, but has the ability to grow in many different dimensions, right? But in my opinion, sorry, OnTick team, if I get this wrong, but in my opinion, they're one of the new companies in the security space who gets that data is the new gold, right? Data is the new gold. The way you collect that data, the way you organize it, maintain it, communicate it, and take action on it, data is the new gold. So if I'm a CSO and I'm looking to invest in security these days, I will lean toward a majority of my investment toward building my security organization to be a data-driven organization, And I will leverage as much as possible automation to make that happen. I will look at ways, and I'm doing this as a thought experiment, to get rid of everyone that I need in security today based on the old model and reinvent it with new skill sets and new people who can leverage technology and automation in the future. And that's always going to be scary when you have shifts in markets like that. You know, you can go way back in history where leaders will rise up and go, we got to stop. We got to stop this. It's going to put people out of work. Yes, it is. A little secret for all of you who are learning skill sets today. You will be disrupted at some point. So your main skill set is not what you learn in college or in an associate's degree or at ASIS. That's not your main skill set. Your main skill set is adaptation and agility. You've got to learn to reinvent as the changes in the world come. And so we're at the cusp of that. It's the data-driven organization, probably less and less people and more automation. And that's going to be the new world we live in.
And I think many agents that are out there, going to EP courses, shooting, moving, grooving, whatever, having some fun, playing Rambo for the weekend. Nothing wrong with that. I like to do that, Jim and Marie. But here's some advice you're getting. If you're listening to this podcast, you may want to think about maybe trying to get into Intel roles or studying, take courses if you can. I would seriously readjust, expand your skill set, make yourself more marketable, not only be an ET agent, but hey, maybe the Intel analyst side may be a good move. I know Kristen Linderson over at Press 24, she's in that space, former FBI agent. She does that history. She's really good at it. She's way up there in the food chain, but there's something to be said. Those folks are never out of work. It seems like I see more posts about those roles in data mining, which the Intel analyst does. What's that? And I think that's the future of protection services support is, the CFOs and all those guys, they need those numbers and data to find out how to make a decision.
That's great.
And so if you're an agent, you're listening to this, you're breaking into the industry, you want to be Jason Bourne, well, I think you might want to expand your skill set into more things than just being, a bodyguard that has a gun. So you keep yourself hireable in the corporate world.
Well, when one of the Google engineers is quoted, one of those off-the-cuff comments that is an indication of where we're going, that their quantum computers are becoming sentient. You know what that means?
Sentient. I don't know what that word is.
SENTIENT. Sentient means they're becoming more like us. Okay. They're starting to take on human consciousness, right? And then apply that to some of the interesting robotic companies that are coming into our space today. True. So they can make decisions that you create as almost like a Boolean operation. If this happens at this time and you need to take these actions, if they can make those kind of decisions, We don't need a human being on the other end of that, right?
True.
We don't. Sorry, all of you who are offended, but man and machine integration was first forecasted 20 years ago, called man-machine integration. And we're starting to see that in our bodies, we have chips now that are monitoring our heart rate, all sorts of different things. This man-machine integration will continue. Machines are not the enemy. AI is not the enemy. Just like an automobile wasn't the enemy, and an Amazon bookstore wasn't the enemy. Okay. So what we really have to do is actively, again, think through the disruptions that are going to occur. I have some good friends in the executive protection space, and we talked about this data-driven organization and turning their EP companies into data-driven service providers, right? That's where I would go if I was in the EP industry. If I was a manufacturer, I'd be trying to make the case that I can deliver sensory data that can be applied through applications that can be applied to the future of AI as quickly as your organization can respond to being a data-driven organization. So, it's a new world, and I think that's good sound advice, Mark. Be a data-driven organization. Get on the edge of that wave, maybe not the bleeding edge, but get on the edge of that wave. Don't let a wave come crashing down on you.
Yeah, great advice, Ron. Yeah, that's just a feature of what I've been hearing after many, many guests been on the show, and just, people, I get it, it's sexy, being on the red carpet with that principal, being on the private jet, but that's 1% of what we do. 1%, the rest is all the walls sitting on a house. And if you want to be challenged mentally, I would say just learn to market yourself, instruct yourself mentally to be have many skill sets in this industry. And, I know a lot of people looking to get out of the industry, only doing other things. There's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with being happy and good mental health. Nothing wrong with that at all.
There's nothing. That's why we have it in our Constitution, right? The pursuit of happiness. No one wants to have the pursuit of depression, anxiety, anything, right? The pursuit of happiness. Yes.
And part of the DNA of a protector is, you're alpha, male or female, and you wanted to dominate what you do. And maybe, things do slow down the EP industry. It's okay to pivot, do something different for a while. We'll find a new hobby, a new role, and something else that stimulates you. And a lot of guys getting out of the business, they're more stimulated. I'm more stimulated now than I ever have been because I watched the podcast, and it's just having a conversation with Ron. It's okay to do something else too. And always have pride in who you are. And I know a lot of people identify themselves by what they do, but have pride in who you are.
Yeah, that is the best advice you could give anyone. And that is the suit you wear, the transportation you take, the job you have isn't your identity. And if you have an alpha gene in you, that's good. It means not just you want to control everything. It means you want to achieve things. And so back to alphas work well in the context of a core value system that says, I'm going to put others first. If they are an alpha that doesn't put others first, watch out, because they'll go through you, around you, they'll shoot you to get their way. But if they're an alpha who puts others before them, that's a whole other thing.
There's a whole other behavior psychology podcast in itself. Man, this has been great, Ron. I mean, we covered a lot of ground in 1 hour, 20 minutes, folks. This has been a lot of great content. And I know Ron's scratched it out to be on the show. And I know he's got many other consulting duties he does during the week. And here's a tip, folks. Whatever you do on LinkedIn, don't mention the word retired. He's refired.
Mark, you're a good man. Appreciate the fact that you're always learning. And that's why one of the reasons you're doing this podcast. And I just wish you the best. And I hope I've added something to the people who listen in.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Ron, for your time. I really admire your mind. It challenges me to think differently too. And I know everybody listening to this podcast is probably taking notes as they were driving. And also, do you guys do me a favor? If you can leave a note on Apple Podcasts for us, give us a 5-star ranking, and we would appreciate that. And we'll be posting this on all the podcast platforms. I think we're doing 30-minute increments, episode drops. So you're going to get about 4 or 5 episodes with Ron and I. And mainly Ron just giving us a lot of wisdom. I'm going to start calling him Professor Ron in college here with our master class. I think business. But I think great shot. What's that, Ron?
By the way, because we were talking about disruptions, my grandfather was a ham radio operator.
Was he? Wow. That's a ham radio.
In fact, in World War II, they didn't let him join the military because they wanted ham radio operators in the United States to help defend the homeland. So this was his mic.
No kidding.
This was his.
That looks ancient. Look at that. Look at that, folks. Is that a dinosaur metal or what?
And now take a look at Mark's. Since all
look at mine.
Yeah, a little different technology, right?
Yep. Plugged into my laptop.
And think about it. Before ham radios, what were there?
Oh my gosh, what is that? Oh, tap, 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 Morse code.
Right? So back to the bookstore, the music store, the taxi, just the function still is there. It's just reinvented in form and function in a different model. We as human beings have to be the same way.
Wow. So true. Adapt, overcome. I was a Marine Corps radio operator in the Corps. So that is funny. Little history, folks. Yeah, please, when we post this on LinkedIn, folks, please make a comment on LinkedIn as well. Follow Ron. He's busy doing things in the business world. No follow. You
don't have to follow me. I don't need followers. If you do follow me, send me something to talk about.
There you go. A thought, provocative thought. Anyway, tell the listeners, thanks for supporting the show. Thanks to Ron for his time to share his wealth of knowledge in the business world. And if it wasn't for folks like Ron and many other guests, we wouldn't have a show. So my appreciation and gratitude to everybody that's been a part of the success of the Fearless Mindset podcast. With that, we'll wrap it up and we'll see you on the next episode. Simplify to all you veterans that serve our country and men and women in blue, keeping us safe. Catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.